Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me. Wherever you're joining me, rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. We want to hear from you. If you're joining us on the Facebook page, make sure that you leave a comment. We want to hear from you. It's really interesting, and I hope that everybody who's in education are currently enjoying their holiday break. I know it was much needed. It was much deserved. If anybody knows anything about school right now, it's a very stressful time to be an educator because of everything that is going on in this country. A lot of educators are under siege. And so I know it can be difficult, and I hope that you are enjoying your time off and that you are getting an opportunity to recharge the batteries for that stretch run. I want to take this opportunity to do a little talking to some of those other educators out there, coaches. I know that most high school coaches can't afford, they don't have the manpower or the time to monitor their players, all of their players' social media pages. That would require for a coach to make sure that they have all of the social media URLs, or all of the social media handles for every single kid on their team on every single platform that kid is on, and then have to actively monitor it all day, every day, because in the world of Twitter especially, your tweet gets buried within 30 seconds of you actually posting it, depending upon how many people you follow and or how many people follow you. So it's really difficult for coaches to monitor their players and what they're putting on their social media. But I do know that I can say pretty honestly that most coaches go, hey, watch what you're putting on your social media. You don't want to lose any opportunities because of what you have on your social media, because of what somebody perceives you to be on your social media. I know that happens. But we also know that these kids are going to be these kids. And these young men are going to try to find their own way. How many times when we were young men did somebody tell us, hey, you don't want to do this? They're trying to give us game, and then we went out and did the very thing that they told us not to do. Sometimes we need to learn on our own. Or sometimes we need to have a different voice, a voice that we wouldn't normally hear tell us things, because when we hear it from that voice, it makes a difference. So a few years ago, I started to notice that college coaches were posting on social media, hey, just saw social media, this really good player, and essentially alluding to the fact that they were going to disqualify this young man because of what their social media said. I went into the comments and thought about saying something, and then I pulled back and I went and I direct messaged the coach. And I said, hey, coach, I wonder if you actually reached out to that young man and let them know that what they had down was going to eliminate you from recruiting them before you just eliminated them. Anybody want to guess the response I received? Yep, you guessed it. No response whatsoever. See, accountability seems to only work one way when it comes to these things. How many times have we seen these college coaches pop on, hey, get at us. Hey, Get at us. Drop your highlights. Follow me. How many college coaches out there are telling schools and students and coaches to follow them, but won't follow them back? How many of these coaches do you see rolling around with thousands upon thousands of followers, and they're not following a lot of people? And then you look through their followers, because I want to know. I don't want to just assume, I want to know. You look through the people that they're following, and they're not following many high schools. They're following other coaches. They're following a few players. They're following media personalities. But they're not following a lot of teams. And my question goes, well, if your job is to be out recruiting and you're not following the teams, then how are you getting updates on the players? Oh, they all have to come to you. They all have to seek you out. They all have to be right on top of the game and find you and do everything that you want, but you're not willing to meet them halfway. And I wish I was just talking about high-level Division I coaches, but I'm not. I'm talking about FCS. I'm talking about HBCU FCS. I'm talking about Division II coaches. I'm talking about NAIA coaches. Guys that should be invested in making connections, that are only really invested in recruiting the players that they want to recruit, and then have the nerve or the audacity to be upset when a young man or a young woman doesn't want to show them any love because they don't feel as if they should be playing at their level. Now, hey, coaches, I agree with you. There's a lot of guys rolling around here thinking they're Division I talents that are not. I agree with you. But how much love are you really showing them? How much love are you really showing them? Are you trying to get that young man on a $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 scholarship when your cost of attendance at your school is $40,000, $50,000, $35,000? Are you purposely looking for kids with low socioeconomic areas because you know that's going to be the kids you can get the highest amount of Pell Grant money from and loan money, so that you can stack that on top and justify not having to give them as much and say, hey, listen, you're not going to have to pay a dime out of pocket, without actually really explaining to them that they're going to be taxed with this once they get out of school? See, my point in all this is that there's the opportunity to teach. I came along, I was coaching in college right before social media hit a level where that was the means to recruiting. So I still had to go out and look people in the face in order to meet them. But if I were coaching in college right now and I saw a young man or a young woman who had a social media account and they had some questionable material on their social media account, and I know that I want to recruit them, I would go and tell them, hey, listen, really interested in you, but social media looks really, really bad. Not the kind of image that we want to have at this school. Not the kind of image that I want to attach my name to. Hey, here's a man to man, a man to woman. I would scrub those. And then in the future, you just want to be more careful about what you're doing, because you don't want to burn a bridge to a program that you might be interested in because of what it says on your social media. I would teach. Why? Because I'm a coach. That's what I do. I teach. I'm a teacher. That's what I do. I teach. People always say, hey, you know, which do you like more, coaching or teaching? There is no difference. I teach the way I coach. I coach the way I teach. So there's no real difference to me. I'm a teacher. Just one I do on the field and one I do in the classroom. but I'm a teacher. So in recruiting, I'm teaching. When I go and talk to young men about my university, about my college, I would be teaching them. That's what we're supposed to do. We're teachers, right? I mean, y'all are coaches. I know your job is on the line. You've got to find guys. It's great. But didn't you get into this thing because you wanted to be a teacher? Or did you get into this thing because you wanted to play a human version of NCAA football 2000 whatever? Did you get into this thing because you wanted to be an influence on young men, young women? Or did you get into this for some type of ego trip? Because I can tell you, if you got into it for the ego trip, we smell you. Because you guys are lying. Nobody is scrapping an elite level talent because of what they put on their social media. And if you are, then that means that you are an elite level program. But I have never seen any of the elite level program coaches come out and say that. It's always a coach at a school where I'm like, can you really afford to be that choosy? Can you really afford to just dismiss what you're calling a really good player and then say, oh, well, on to the next? Because you're losing games. The idea that we can't take out a small amount of time to teach is asinine. You know how tired I am of seeing coaches retweet college coaches who say, oh, well, I eliminated this young man from my recruiting because of his social media without actually giving any kind of feedback to the kid or the coach or anybody to say, hey, listen, you might want to do this because you got a good one there. He can ball, but it doesn't look good on his social media. I would even go as far as to tell that young man, hey, listen, I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to come back. I'm going to check in on you in a couple weeks. I'm going to look at the social, see what it looks like. If it still looks like that later, then I'm probably going to have to step away from you. That's what you could tell these young men. That's what you could tell these young women. I guarantee you that they would make the necessary adjustments. Why? Because this is what they want to do with their life. They want to play that sport. They want to be involved in that sport. They want to go to college. And they specifically want to go to college on a scholarship. So they're not going to just ignore you at that point because now you're the other voice. See, we coaches, we're like the parent. They listen to what we say, but they don't always take it into consideration until it comes from another source. So you're the other source. And if they never get that other source, or if they get that hater other source, which is, oh, well, I just dropped the kid who had a bad social media. You know what they go? He don't understand. He's a hater. He never really cared. And now they put the defense system up. But what about if you guys came on here and you posted stuff like, hey, been looking around on a lot of social media accounts of these young men and young women. There's some troubling things that I see. Hey, word of advice to all the recruits out there. Make sure that your social media says this, this, and this. Make sure that your social media doesn't include this. If you want to have something like that on your social media, it probably should be private. You could give them this information. You can teach without even knowing these young men. Why? Because you have the status, because you have the cachet, because you have the opportunity. You could be of assistance to so many young men, even the ones that you're not recruiting. To so many young women, even the ones that you're not interested in having play ball for you. But instead, we want to flex. Instead, we want to flex. We want to pump our chest. We want to beat our chest and talk about this power that we will to scholarship or not scholarship, to recruit or not recruit. And in that moment, we lose sight of why we got into the profession in the first place. I firmly believe this. I firmly believe this. You can never completely dismiss any young man. You can never completely dismiss any young woman. Sometimes you have to step away from them indefinitely, but you always offer a way back. So why would you eliminate a 17-year-old from being recruited by you because of what it says on that 17-year-old mind's Twitter account? You don't think they're going to be different by the time they get to 22? Do you not remember you at 17 versus you at 22? If it was the same man, my guy, you are trash. If you were the same guy at 17 as you are at 22, if you've made no improvements, if you've made no adjustments, if you've seen no light, trash. Yeah, I'm judging. You know why? Because it doesn't happen. Everybody changes. 17 to 22 is such a large jump. Heck, I remember me at 17 versus me at 19, it was different. Me at 19 versus me at 22 was way different. So give these young men and these young women the opportunity to grow. Drop them a jewel or two before you just pitch them away. Because you might think that they need you. But the truth is you need them just as much as they need you. Because we have this new thing where everybody seems to be looking for a finished product. The recruiting game has changed. It's a dirty game out here. If a kid's not ready to play right now, there's a chance that kid's not going to get recruited. But that doesn't mean that that kid's not a talent. So many times we see these things happening. Kenny Pickett was trash at Pitt. Not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3 years, but 4 years. He was trash. At 24 years old, he gets or 23 years old, I guess, he gets the opportunity to come back for another year and puts together a great year. That's somebody who had the opportunity to grow. But you don't get these chances. Mac Jones would have never been Mac Jones if he had played as a freshman or a sophomore. How do we know? People kept beating him out. That's how we know. So we got an opportunity to teach. So coaches, I don't care what level you're at, before you start throwing stones at these kids, realize, number one, you did not grow up with this. And then number two, your first responsibility is to teach. It is not to just throw people away or scrutinize. Your first responsibility is to teach. And if you remember that, then I think we'll all be better off for it. Now, young men, go out there, clean up your social medias. Young ladies, go out there, clean up your social medias, because not everybody's trying to give you the game like I'm trying to give it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. We do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, the Facebook channel, and on Twitter, I really do appreciate it. Make sure that you're liking, make sure that you're subscribing, make sure that you're following. We'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.